Hello everyone, we're going to take a look at the secure asset inventory tool and do an evaluation of it and show how it can benefit for the organizations that have restrictions, say they have multiple networks, limited Wi-Fi connectivity, or no, not not allowed in the facility, that kind of thing. So we're going to take a look at what this tool can do for those facilities or just any regular organization that wants to take advantage of it. So the GitHub here, and I've just downloaded the latest release, which is 1.0.25.1106. And then this is just some sample data of some assets that I've made, and that way we're not starting from a completely empty inventory. This could be the equivalent of exporting out of your current tool. If you have a cloud-based tool, web-based tool, and you can export your assets. The good thing about the tool is that it will adapt its fields and inventory and database fields based off your headers that you load. So we'll get right into it and we'll take a look at it. So loading the tool from scratch, it'll say, hey, there's no template selected. Would you like to use the default template? Which so it does is included a default template. If you go back, this is just the Python window you can um, use for debugging if you run any errors, or it'll kind of have some as it builds database um, attributes and things. But for the most part, you can minimize that. But you'll notice that since even without doing anything else when we ran it, it added this assets folder. So it's going to create you a log file. It's going to initialize a blank database, um, your config file here, and then auto backups, fonts, output files, and templates. So you'll see that in the templates, there is a default template included. This kind of get you started with just some basic fields. Um, so if we were to open that up, and we can see here that it just has some basic fields similar to based off what um, I primarily use, which is an export from a SolarWinds help desk product. It's kind of an obscure product for standalone networks. Everything's moving cloud based, which is one of the motivations for creating this tool. So we can use that default template, or I'm just going to use the uh, sample database. So the sample CSV is the default template, just with some data fields added to it. So if you hit yes, it would load that. I'm going to hit no. All right, so you're jumping right into your tool. You jump you straight into the settings. So we're going to select our template, and it's going to say, hey, it's going to add 50 new columns to the database, because currently the database only has some system columns, such as creation date, who created it, who modified it, those kind of things. But for actual attributes that's going to tie to an asset, it is empty. So I'm going to say yes. It added 50 new columns, and template successful, database schema was checked and updated, field categories have been refreshed. So the field categories are down below here. But before I jump to that, output directory is fine. Database setting is fine, except for it loaded this as template, but even though this has data in it, it did not load the data. It just loaded the headers. So we're going to go down here to import CSV data. It's going to see that in this template you've selected, there's actually 66 rows. So it's like, hey, do you want to import from this file, or were you wanting to import from something else? In this case, I'm going to hit yes. and it's gonna want to continue with the import. And so now we have 66 records loaded. So if we were to go to database info, we can see some information about the database. We can see there's 66 assets that it just told us about. It has added to the audit table 66 entries, which are the creation of those items, and columns, etc. So here's our tables. There's our database size. So it kind of gives you an overview here. There are some other database of, if you wanted to select a whole new database, you want to initialize a clean, start from scratch, backup, repair, optimize. You can run this. It'll vacuum it and check it for integrity checks, and export. Export all will export everything in the database, all fields, including system level fields. And then export DB via template will just export out in the exact same format that you that you imported in, or based off this template. So if you need an exact format to export back and to import into, say, another system you have on your network, loading this template here, you can export back out straight and it'll be fully compatible with your template. Like I said, everything is dynamic and based off that template. So these fields here, you can go ahead and reload it just to make sure they're loaded. These are based off of the fields that I have in my database from the template. So you can specify which ones you want to be drop-down fields, in which case it will create a drop-down list based off data in your database. So if you're starting from blank, though, it'll try to make it a drop-down field, but there won't be any data. Or if you are have data, it will populate those fields if you have all HP desktops or whatever. So the manufacturer would be a drop-down list, and it would have HP if you had HP systems in there already, etc. Required fields are the ones when we add assets, it's gonna make it required before you submit. Excluded fields are going to be system level fields. Maybe there's things in your template that you have to have in there to be compatible with importing back into another solution, but you don't use them, or you don't want to see them. So maybe you don't use contract expiration date. You don't really use a billing rate name. I've populated these checkboxes with some defaults of some things that for my specific use case, I don't want to see. But if you load this with a completely different template, it'll be here. You can check them. The defaults won't do anything if you don't have a discovery sync ID field, for example. And then unique fields are the ones that it's going to check for duplicates on. So if you try to submit something that has the same serial number that you already put in the database, it'll warn you about it. And you can, so these are selectable. A little bit just side note, for my system, network name is actually the host name of a machine. I don't particularly like the way that it's called network name, because in my environment, we do have multiple physical networks. So for that one, I've actually called those system names, but those aren't unique. So, and then just some other settings here. The monitor window, which we'll see in a minute, gives you a preview of what you've added and changed recently. You can change what that monitor shows about your asset. In my case, I'm showing serial number and asset number on top, and then the manufacturer model. And then the third row is showing room cube system name, but you can change what those displays. So bulk update presets. When we do set some presets, they would show up here. You can remove them. This is a system level one for updating the audit date, which will always put in the current date. So that's what that is. And then when we get into the reporting feature, um, you can choose what your label output fields are. The HMR, hardware movement request, and the destruction report are not yet implemented, but these settings will be used for that when that feature um, gets developed in future. So at that, we can close the settings, and at this point, you're ready to start adding assets. So adding assets can easily be done on the main menu here, going to the Add Assets button. That will open the field entry. So all these fields again are populated from your template. And then in the settings menu where we selected our required fields, it's going to put all the required fields on the top for easy access with any additional fields in the database listed below. So I have a batch of new phones that I need to add to my inventory. So we're going to select VoIP. We're going to select the manufacturer of Yealink and the model, which is a T46S. So all of these are drop downs are populated from items we already have on inventory. Um, but you can easily add new fields if you get a new model, new status. Just type it into there and overwrite it. So status, we're going to put all these as offline storage. Location, we put it in our secure storage location. And the system name is so I have multiple networks that the things can connect to. You got BigNet, DevNet, private net. In this case, we're gonna go production one. So that's all of our required fields. We can look down here under additional fields and notice that it is filling our audit date with today's date because I have, hands-on, I'm seeing that I have these in my possession. So we're going to add an audit date for today's date, which is selected by default. Change that with the date picker. You can, so put any kind of notes you want in here, adding to initial inventory and your, so you want your initials and the date, um, which, uh, well, anyway, then you can, and then fill in any of these fields. So I'm gonna leave all those blank for now though. So serial number. So most phones or most IT assets should have a barcode on them from the manufacturer. Sometimes those barcodes are harder to read or easier to read than others. So we are actually going to make new barcodes for these, which we'll get to in a future um, post. So we can see down here we have a request label. So by default, we're going to request a label that we can print out later from these. And we're going to add multiple. So I got a lot of phones I want to add. The old way of doing this would be, at least in my environment, where you can't um, just scan the network. You can't just do other things to find them, would be creating a spreadsheet. Maybe you have a barcode reader, which I have here, but you're scanning into a spreadsheet. You're typing in all this information. It can be very tedious. So this is to evaluate the speed of how this tool can do it. So we're going to do our first serial number that I'm going to scan with the barcode here. And down at the bottom, we can see where it's got our tips for keyboard shortcuts. So we're just going to hit Control Enter. It's going to say, hey, we added that to your database, and go right back to blanking out that serial number and for next entry. If there were any other fields that were marked as unique in the system, like IP address, for example, it would also blank those out too, because we know you can't have the same IP. I guess you could have, if your different networks were isolated, you could have the same IP space on multiple networks, but yeah. So we're gonna add another one. Adding. Oh, and while we're doing that though, let me show you this. If we go back to where we can see our menu and we go to monitor changes, um, you can actually bring up this asset monitor window that will show you the recent activity. So it can show you that I have just scanned 4 items, and it'll tell you the room that they're currently assigned to in the cube. In this case, we're putting them in storage. I didn't set a cube, but we're going to put them in room 101. So let's say you've added 4 items to 101, and this will constantly refresh as we're going. So if I forget, hey, how many did I do? I know how many boxes I have, and you can do a count of that. So I'll keep going on these, and then we'll be right back. But you'll see how quickly this can be done. Okay, so we've added them all now, and we can close this and see that we have added 25 items. So you can scroll through here. It's showing 10 by, and this updates live. So I have the resolution set a little bit low on this screen just for video purposes. But in most cases, you probably have a higher resolution screen. You can actually have these side by side. So if I expand this out to 50 or 25, I could actually see all of these assets. And you can see how easy that was and how much time that saves, especially if you're lucky enough, like the barcodes are on the box of the phone. I always like to verify, at least for a few, that the barcode on the box matches the barcode on the phone for the serial number. But um, but yeah, that obviously makes it simpler. But compare that to typing in a number in a spreadsheet, or even if you're using a barcode scanner to scan into a spreadsheet and then having to take that back to your system and try to import it or move it around, saves so much time. So that's it for adding. Now let's take a look at the next feature. So one of the most important features is the ability to audit. So in a secure facility, there's an annual requirement to audit um, all IT assets. So that doesn't just include devices on your network, but it includes monitors, KVMs, UPSs, so battery UPSs, whatever your organization kind of determines, but it's going to include a lot of things that can't just, do a ping sweep or use a Active Directory or something that checks your network. You actually have to go around and physically check items. That also includes media. Most importantly, it includes media. So hard drive inventory, all media that is under the control of that facility has to be audited and accounted for. So in the past, historically, that's normally done on like a printed out spreadsheet on a clipboard. And so you have somebody reading out serial numbers off of machines and somebody scanning down the list and checking them off when they find them and searching around and hoping that you're, not dyslexic or reading numbers or reading I's as ones in the serial numbers, which um, happens way too often. The manufacturers will put ones and I's and zeros and O's and everything that makes it very ambiguous to read. And it's not uncommon that somebody in the past has read those out wrong. So this tool will provide a big improvement to that. So we're going to evaluate that feature now. So we're going to do that under search and change assets. So the assets are already in the system, right? So we're just going around to audit them. So we'll notice, so this field, this menu, you can change, bulk change different, as many different things as you want. But you'll notice there's a presets up here. And one of the presets is update audit date. So if we load that preset, it's going to set audit date, replace, and it's going to set it to today's date. If there's some other field that you needed to update and change while you're doing your audits, you can certainly do that at the same time. And you can do as many of these as you want. This feature is also extremely helpful for, say you're moving, say you replaced all your monitors, for example, and you have 100 monitors that you are moving into a storage room. Well, you can pull this tool out, change your room number, your cube number, your status to offline, set all those here, and then use the same thing to scan those monitors when they're put into the storage room. So in this case, we're just gonna audit some things. So I'm here at cube. I'm here at cube A12. Okay, and we're gonna scan each item in this cube. So first I have a Cisco IP phone. So you can see as soon as I scan that, it pulls up the record for it. So I can see here that it's a Cisco VoIP IP. I can see it's on my DevNet, my network, all the information about the asset. And like I said, I'm in cube A12. If I needed to edit anything about this asset, I can easily just go here to the edit menu, pull up the window that looks just like how we added the assets, and change anything, add details. But in this case, it's good. So I'm going to just apply changes, which is going to tell me I'm just going to update the audit date on, and we're good to go. If we were to go back to our monitor window, we can see, hey, we're now in room 305, cube A12, and we've modified one asset. So that modification is our audit date. And actually, we can go ahead and take a look at that. We go over here, we can pull up the view for the asset, and there's a history tab. So everything is fully audited. Adds audit trail into the database for every change, modification, addition, with attribution to who did it based off your Windows login. So in this case, I modified it. I changed the previous date. I audited this phone was June 12th, and I audited it again today. So we'll keep going. So see, as soon as I applied that, it blanked out our search. So then we can just go to our next device here. So we have an HP monitor that we've scanned. And I can say, well, this barcode label that on this monitor is getting a little worn out. So I'm actually, before I apply changes here, I'm actually going to request a new label. So it's going to request me a new label, which I'll print out later. And we're going to apply changes to update our audit date. And then we're going to go on to our next device, which is a Dell Optiplex. And there's something unique about these guys here is that you can see they have related sync keys. So if you can relate assets to one another. So in this case, there's a Samsung SSD that is inside this. So I'm going to update the audit date on the Dell, and then I can either go to the asset here and update it, or I can scan it again. So I can easily pull up the child asset, see everything about it here. In this case, we'll just scan the hard drive. If they're tamper sealed in or something like that, you can easily just update it without cracking open the tamper seal. Okay. I have an HP Elite Desk. We're going to update that one. It has a SSD inside of it. You can scan. Update the audit date on that. And Dell monitor. There are keyboard shortcuts here as well. You can see Control Enter to apply the changes, Control Backspace to clear the search. So if I scan my next one, which is the KVM, I can Control Enter quickly use keyboard shortcuts. There we go. And from our monitor, we can see in cube A12, we did 9 items. Well, I was expecting 10 items. So then you can easily go back and say, hey, what did I miss here? All right. So I've got my Cisco phone. I got my HP monitor. Got my Dell Optiplex. Got the Samsung hard drive inside of it. Lead desk. SSD. Dell. It looks like I missed one of my Dell monitors. So it looks like I might have missed this guy here. And if I scan it, I can actually go down and look at the audit date. Yep, so that audit date has not been updated. Scan it and refreshes to 10. So we're good. So this is a demonstration of how you can do a complete audit and quickly and easily see how you can do that. And then I'll go ahead and show you along with the audit. So under the reports and analysis, under audit reports. So say, normally 365, that report should be blank. I guess I do have one item that with an old date in my sample data. But if I do, 30 days, then I'll see everything not been audited in 30 days that I can go around and scan and check. There should be um, nothing in my current cubicle. So um, I've scanned everything there. And yep, that's how you can audit and update assets. So the other features we can take a look at are browse assets. So if we just execute a blank search with Control Enter or scrolling down to search button, we can see all of our assets and all the database fields across here. Clicking any of them will give you a preview along the side. You also have a viewable. It can also just be done from a double click. And like I said, so here's our Yealink phones that we added previously. See under the history of when we created them, what was modified, which is the label creation request that we had selected upon import. And yeah, so also on this is where we can do filtering. So you can do groups of filters and some and or logic on here. So if you wanted to do, say, asset type equals media, and then within that group, say we want to select our system of DevNet. So we want media and DevNet in a group. And then overarching, we can do an or, and then do yeah. I wanted a group. So do another group. Yeah, for the asset type. And system name. I did DevNet here, so we'll do BigNet equals. And if we run that search, we will see only media that belongs to either DevNet or BigNet. Now there's probably a better way to do that logic. I could have done media on the outside and with an and and have BigNet and DevNet as an OR, but you get the idea. These can also, once you come up with a good query, you can easily save here, say big and dev media, and retrieve that search easily at any point. That'll load that filter back in. So you can request labels. So here you can export this to a CSV if you want to use it as in a report somewhere else. So that is the browse assets. The export assets is fairly straightforward. So under settings, we saw you can export the DB, all fields of the DB, or you can export via template. This button on the main menu also gets you to the same place for exporting via the template. And so, the devices that we added, for example, so today we've done some auditing, we've done some adding of 25 new phones. Now I want to export those reports or a spreadsheet that I can use either to import into a different system on a different network that I'm going to move via secure hard drive, or say I have a different label printing program and I want to export those for that purpose. Then I have a couple of options on my filter, so I can export all assets. We're just going to export the whole database based off but just the template fields. I can do recently modified assets, or I can do recently added assets. So, or both. So recently added, if I did that, then it sees it's found 25 assets. So those are my phones. So that'll be only in the phones that I export. So do that. Say I'm going to add VoIPs onto the end of it there. Now, we were to pull that up and drill into the assets and output files, exports, so we can see where it's made my CSV and see that it's made a CSV with those phones exported just according to that template that can easily be transported um, between um, networks, between computer systems, whatever you need to do. Open it in Excel, make a pivot table out of it in Excel, etc. So just another thing to point out over here on these export options. So like I've alluded to, I've used a product called SolarWinds Help Desk, which has an asset system. Not, it's kind of use the product you have available. The SolarWinds themselves have moved seemingly to a cloud-based software as a service solution. Then this one's kind of neglected. So I am not a proponent of it. It is what it's there. You know, it's what I got. Um, it, so I've added a few things. So I'm gonna filter out the asset numbers for the items that I've added, like those phones that I self-assigned an asset number to. Well, when I import these back into SolarWinds, SolarWinds is going to want to give them an asset number. So I'm going to filter out those. I'm also going to filter out related sync keys from imported. So if I were to have exported devices that I had previously imported from SolarWinds, I'm going to remove the sync key. So that's kind of a odd one to explain, but essentially I'm going to want to sync the data back into the help desk based off of serial numbers, and by default these sync keys are the asset numbers. That's more working around bug in SolarWinds than anything, in my opinion. And then filtering manufacturer from imported as a safeguard. So basically, again, because the product I'm importing into is not robustly coded, in my opinion, I'm taking out the manufacturer so that it would fail to import um, an asset that it already has instead of creating a new one because that is a required field. But if you're not using this product, you can uncheck these and export. But that's the export feature. Lastly, let's take a look at some of the reports and analysis section. So when you first open the reports, you'll be greeted with a little database overview. It will show you how many assets you have, how many you've recently audited, maybe audit overdue, which is going to default to the 1 year, 365 days. I have one item overdue. I need to find how many have I added in the last 30 days. I've added 91 assets in the last 30 days. You can kind of see a breakdown of distribution here. 44% is media. VoIP, which I need to fix that font. It's hard to read there. So you can see your top 10 manufacturers, top 10 systems, which are my case, what I'm calling different networks, production networks, a development network, private and big net, whatever networks you have. See the audits, see your top 10 locations, which are the room counts, so you can see where your assets are located. Audit report is an important one for security reasons. So I need to find, so I have a crucial SSD that is hasn't been audited, but in this case it says it's been destroyed. So I probably just need to recategorize where that is, and I can't audit something that's already been destroyed. But if I were to change this to say 30 days, if I can see how many things I haven't audited in 30 days. Labels. So I have added in some devices and requested labels for them. Here's how I would print those labels. So if I generate a report based off creation of request date of today, then it's going to show me everything I requested a label for today, which in this case is all these phones. And when we did an audit, we said, oh, we need a new label on this monitor. So we hit the request label. So it added it here. This provides an easy way to then you can export to Excel in this case to be used to generate the labels. Or if you use Avery 5160 labels, you can get secure, like tamper resistant labels that are a little bit stronger. You can actually set, okay, I want the barcode to be set off the serial number, or you can choose another field and then have some secondary fields written on the label, and you can actually generate barcodes yourselves, which will put them into the label folder. And if we open that label folder, we'll be able to see that it actually made us some barcode labels that we could then print out and put onto our machines. So just depends on if you use Avery labels, made a section to do that, or you can export and use your other labeling machine. Duplicate detection. So if you wanted to do a little bit of sanity checking on your, so if we serial number, Say, nope, no duplicates found. Say you do media control and your database um, has a media control number. Which I'm probably just overlooking here. Here it is. So if you have a media control number, I want to make sure there are no duplicates on those. So just some handy tools for forensic work if you which is where this one comes into play as well. So cubicle analysis. So KVMs there should only be one at each cube. So in our case, I only have two cubes in the database. They both show one. Well, if you've misplaced something, you say KVM not equal to one. If you had like two categorized that you may not even be at those cubes, but you can do some sanity checking like there. And then finally, these HMR, hardware movement and destruction certificates are not implemented yet. So that'll be a future enhancement to the tool. So that concludes some of the walkthrough of the tool. We can see from evaluating it that it will serve our purposes exceptionally well to streamline with the accuracy and efficiency of adding and auditing inventory, especially in secure environments where you're not able to detect things on networks. You have multiple networks, you have devices that aren't connected at all, and then you don't have access to the cloud services that most of the existing tools um, operate on. So you get yourself a approved maintenance laptop for your facility. Take this tool around. You have a standalone database. Um, you do all your work, then you export what you've added or changed and audited, and then you move that back to whatever system. If you have a main database that is in some sort of local data center server web environment, you can move all those changes back and migrate easily back and forth. So thank you all for watching, and we'll have more updates coming soon.